And
but we won't.
All good. We're here. We're good.
We're here. It's Monday night, episode 216. Snakes and Stogies. We've now surpassed THP.
Really?
Yeah, and Jake is upset.
Oh, he'll have to correct that. Was it like 215, 216, or is it like, are we really?
Oh, yeah, we just had 215. So,
all right.
Monday. This episode is brought to you by BlackBoxCages.com. Check them out, Facebook, Instagram. Use the code THN24 at checkout. Get 10% off your order. Save even more. Go to the pickup option when you're going to check out instead of shipping. You can just ride on up to BlackBox there in North Georgia. Pick it up yourself. Meet Jen and the gang. And make a road trip out of it. Make a thing of it. Make it an event.
An adventure.
Take your dog. Take your kids. Take your family.
Just don't put the kids in the cage.
That's right.
Even though you want to.
Make sure they get the UV and all that.
You know? Oh, yeah. Full spectrum lighting for the Homo sapiens.
That's right. So
I just noticed we're flip-flop tonight.
Are we? Are you usually?
Are
you usually on
that's
the right?
how. Because I usually go like this, and there's BlackBox, and tonight I was like,
gotcha. Okay, well, we got it now, so
it's fine. We're good. It's good to change it up.
BlackBoxCages.com. Shop around, check it out. Racks, cages, anything you can need, they got it. FullViewsApparel.com. Also, new hats, new shirts, stuff up, hoodies. Working on it. Use the code THN at checkout as well. That's 15% off your order. It's the exclusive promo code for THN listeners and viewers like you. I got this my fur baby's tarantula shirt on.
Tell me it's glow in the dark. Tell me it's glow in the dark.
It's not. It's just it's THN acid green. Yeah,
that's all right. But we got to get a glow in the dark one.
They don't make glow in the dark ink actually for the DTG printers.
Really?
They make it for screen printing, and it's stupid expensive. I don't even know how well it works, but
interesting. What if it would probably take twice as long to make? But what if you did the acid green, THN green, like you have right now, and then put glow in the dark thread stitching like on the border or inside it?
That would be tough.
Yeah. Now, the more I think about it, that'd be a huge pain in the butt.
I think you'd be just as easily like printing it and then taking a paintbrush after the fact and painting it.
Yeah.
On. But then figuring out a way to do it to where it will hold up in the wash and stuff. So.
Yeah. Good point. Oh, what are you smoking tonight?
Sorry. Take this long.
Are you frozen?
I don't think so. Am I?
No, your audio is great, but you lagged out for a second.
Marco.
Polo.
Marco.
So, yeah, it's Monday night. We have very special guests lined up tonight. Unfortunately, they are having technical difficulties, much as our guests seem to always do. So it's just going to be me and Smitty to start off. But what's new with you, Smitty?
Not a whole lot. Really nothing.
I saw
nothing to report.
You published the release date of Arachnerds.
Yeah.
Yes. Dude, I saw that picture with the glasses and I was like, oh, this is so great. This is so great. Because the two of you have glasses and you're both nerds. I love it.
I know, right?
It's so good. It's so, like, no sarcasm. So good.
I figured it was fitting.
Very, very fitting.
Yeah, so we're recording the first episode of that tomorrow.
Awesome. You give us a teaser as what the topic is?
Been freaking pumped and excited to do it. And the past couple, so this is like the third time we've had to sort of kick that can down the road because like stuff keeps coming up. And so we're like, okay, let's record, this week. And then that night rolls around. It's like, I got it, let's kick it. So it keeps getting punted. And we finally figured out that tomorrow night's the night. So
cool, man. Good stuff. I know your co-host.
I don't know exactly what we're going to cover. I mean, I feel like I'm super interested to get into Surge's background in terms of spiders and stuff. And am I frozen?
Kinda. You're a little behind.
Oh my god, this would be the episode to have issues.
I know, right?
Marco.
Polo.
Okay, cool. Yeah, his background with tarantulas is pretty extensive. He's got a lot of connections in the academic side of that, so I think it'll be really cool. Definitely feel like I'm going to be the dummy on that one, hanging out with people that are way smarter than me.
Man, it's all learning experience. That's why we do it.
But yeah, I mean, it's good though, because I think we have fairly eclectic but different tastes in terms of what we like to keep. You know, he's very much into some of the South American like big stuff. I'm much more into the old world arboreal stuff. And then unlike Chondrocast, which I know I've mentioned, that was kind of like the toughest point with that, was you're fairly limited in the scope of things to talk about. I don't see that being a problem with this. It'll be
no, not at all. So. Oh yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah. The main problem is I'm going to be talking to people about all these awesome spiders, and I'm limited on what I can keep to pretty much what I have currently. So
is that right?
It's going to be painful. It's not.
It is.
It's not.
You just take care of the ones you got the best you can and keep going.
Keep going as in we buy more.
Yeah.
And
Arachnarmy.
That's Katie's worst fear.
I can only imagine.
She's not a fan, so it's balancing survival and happiness. What are you smoking this evening?
Dude, I it's going on third show, but dude, Veterans Tobacco, man. I know, like, I've smoked a few other things since last show, and dude, the True Believer from Veterans Tobacco, the little stubby guy, can't stop smoking them, man. They're just fantastic. Oh, what do we got here?
Whoop.
Ah.
Hello.
Hey.
You made it.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna mute myself for a second and holler for Jim.
Sure. No problem.
Give me a second.
Need to zoom it out a bit.
Yeah, probably.
Jake hates it when I do the up close, like the filled in style.
I like the up close because it focuses on the person at hand, But I feel like with the two of them on screen, it'll probably be better if we.
Well, I just feel like when it's me and Jake and we're doing THP, like I feel like I'm 20 feet away from the camera when I'm sitting like this. But I'm talking about rearranging all this anyways, because Jake pretty much doesn't even come over to do like in person anymore. He does it from his house because he's got a setup and stuff now in the snake room. So I'm thinking I'm gonna upgrade my camera, and then I wanna rearrange here a little bit.
Very cool.
Tweak it some, kind of.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm like off. I'm not directly in line with my camera. I'm off to the side a little bit, and I'd like to, I've got the Pete Cow Jägermeister bottle and some of the other stuff, the other memorabilia from over the years.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And
the Howard Stern memorabilia,
I guess,
souvenirs of all your esteemed guests.
Talismans.
Yes, talismans. Yes. It's good, man. It's good. And you can still rearrange it so you still have like the couch kind of concept, get the studio vibe.
Oh, dude, these are like legit leather chairs that my in-laws had in like the 60s.
Nice.
Things are great.
Nice.
80s? Oh. Either way, they're great. They're comfortable. They hold up forever. They're genuine Italian leather.
There you go. Now you can look happy. Our chairs are not the same height.
No. It's cool. It's cool.
How we doing?
What's up, guys?
Oh, we're all right. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Apparently, my laptop doesn't think it can handle this.
StreamYard can be kind of
So,
finicky with
sorry.
different browsers. So
I'm turning you up more
check.
because Jim's deaf.
Yeah.
Or mostly deaf, not 100%, but close.
I ruptured my eardrums cliff diving.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
At least you were doing something cool.
Yeah, until I hit the water.
Oh,
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Um,
Well, we're so glad you guys could make it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. It's been a rather hectic week, especially for South Carolina. We're obviously not going to get too deep into things, but figured it was a good time to talk about some stuff in terms of anti-venom, venom production, various things that are semi-related.
It's actually more. This is normal. This is not really chaos for us. This is just kind of like normal. We get calls from all over the place.
Oh, I imagine.
So,
Yeah.
But,
I believe it.
We're always chaotic, maybe.
Yeah, we're always chaotic. You guys got questions?
Yeah. So, we usually kick it off with sort of the general how'd you get here kind of thing. But we figured we'd sort of expand that a little bit this round. How did KRZ come about, and sort of what was the catalyst in starting that?
Well, you better answer that.
I started extracting venom 49 years ago, and I decided that the way they were doing it and the way the animals were dying in 6 months was not, one, humane, and two, it's not good science because you can't replicate it. So I started breeding king cobras and went from there, and just kind of, I was always interested in venoms. I was a cop for about 5 years, and I did bouncing, and I did bodyguard, and served papers. People call it bounty hunting. It's just, you're just serving papers. So of course I got stabbed once while serving papers, but I was just serving divorce papers of all things. So it's like I've got people who were murderers and arrested them. They never stabbed me, but some guy getting a divorce runs out of the thing and stabs me in the back.
Oh, geez, man. The level making you crazy.
The TV calls are usually the most intense, and usually the ones where people get hurt the most often.
Yeah, well, his arm turned into a pretzel. So the zoo itself, I was extracting venom while I was a police officer and while I was going through college and stuff. I actually worked in a coroner's office when I was 17, and I worked in a ER on the weekends when I was 17. So I decided I didn't like seeing suffering. So I started working with venoms to look into the medical parts of them. And Dr. Sherman Minton helped me a lot. He was one of my early mentors. A lot of people in modern herpetology, don't really know who he is, but he was the guy that everybody's walking in footsteps, especially when it comes to venoms. So he got me interested when I called him up when I was 16, and he talked to me like I was a human. And then from then he would tell me if I was screwing up. And, he would say if I was doing something, handling recklessly or doing something, he would tell me point blank, and I would listen, because it seems like sometimes now people don't listen. So I learned a lot from him. But I got ran over by a stolen car when I was 26, which is the first time I died. And then I was forced to take a medical retirement, and I got a 20% pension, which from $12,000 to 20% pension, you can figure out wasn't a whole lot of money, but I could live on it. So I moved down here, and first I did a couple things with trailers for a couple summers. I did fairs and worked with carnies and all this stuff. And then I came down here and I saw a building that was for rent. And I talked to the guy, and he let me have it for a year for free. to see if it would work. I slept on a concrete floor in the back of this building for the first year on a sleeping bag. Had no TV, no radio, no nothing. So I just kind of roughed it. I didn't have a whole lot of money coming in, so I ate a lot of potatoes. But as it grew, as the exhibit, you know, it was a small little rinky-dink place, and I had like 30 or 40 species on display, and people would come. And eventually, I bought the property down here where the zoo is, and we started building this. In fact, another one of my mentors was Mike Good at the Columbus Zoo. So when they were redoing Reptile House up there, they gave us all of the old cages. And they're mahogany cages. I don't know if you've seen them. Some of them are in our videos. They were made originally in 1966.
Wow.
They're the first cage.
They're really cool.
Yeah, they're the first. They're going to outlast any of the stuff we have. And it's one of the first cages I ever hooked a cobra into. One of the first cobras, and we still have that bloodline because we have to have permits on CITES animals on the byproduct to ship it overseas. So she does all that work, and it's like thick. But we went back to the original bloodlines of Mycuthia, and they came from the Siam Snake Park in 1977.
Wow.
So and some of my kings, my oldest one lived to be 35. I have one right now that's about 29.
28 or 29.
28 or
like
29. I've been having so many surgeries lately. I'm kind of in the fog. So I got to lose this shoulder in 2 weeks. So they're going to do a reverse replacement in that. I'm only 9 weeks out on this one. They usually don't do them that close together, but they set them a freak in nature or something. I'm not going to have a whole lot of original body parts left. It has nothing to do with snakes. Nada. It's all because I did martial arts and
Hey, it worked for Steve Austin to work for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except I got an infection in one of the prosthetics, and that was really bad.
Oh, geez.
Not recommended.
Yeah, I was just starting to get back in shape, and now I've lost like 15, 20 pounds of muscle just from this surgery because I atrophy.
Wow.
But yeah, I came down here, set up, and started it as a small. I didn't actually do venom extractions for the public at that point, but they didn't have the building wasn't set up safely for doing so. So what I did was just had people go through and I talk to people and stuff like that. Then when we moved out here, we set everything up so people could see the extractions because we got, as anybody, something you're doing behind closed doors, everybody thinks you're doing something horrible. So, being open to the public and transparent, So I've been here since 1990. So it's 34 years.
That's awesome, man. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's cool, man. I gotta be honest, watching you guys on TV, St. Lucia a long time ago.
Yeah.
And now you guys are sitting here with me. Kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie, kind of fangirling a little bit. It's pretty great.
She says it's the only romantic thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
The camera guy was hilarious. He goes, well, what would happen if she said no? I said, nobody comes off the mountain.
That's good.
Cameras get destroyed.
That's good.
I was told at that time when we were filming with them and stuff that the cat's going to walk in front of us. She's got to get into everything. But I was told I'm more of an HBO kind of guy because I have a dark sense of humor. And that kind of comes in the cat's ass. And so people don't want to look at your butt. So, push it a lot. But come here, boo boo. I can't lift you with my shoulder.
Just push her over.
Just push her over.
There you go, Sophie.
Okay, but it's everything's developed just as we flow along and stuff. And the TV shows, like I said, we get pitched them all the time. Now we're really a little more smart about it. after we got 2 times we got messed over. One was with National Geographic, where they came and filmed, and they came and filmed, and they cut my wording in half to make it what they wanted.
Yeah.
What it was a guy had died who had this habit of putting a rabbit under his chin, open the cage, and dropping it in. And they asked me about it. I said, well, his method of doing that is an accident waiting to happen. So when they put it on the TV, they showed a reticulated python and said, keeping this is an accident waiting to happen. And that's not what I said.
Oh, yeah.
So now I get used to doing a lot of run-on sentences when I talk to the media.
You might have
because
noticed that.
Yeah, it's a little harder to edit it. So, and I pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm really close. Just that goes back to us. I'm adjudicated as an expert witness on snake bite and venoming, and so I've been called into court and all that other stuff for stupid things. So, but it's kind of evolved from that. And then I met her, and she didn't go away. And then we got,
that's romantic.
Yeah, that's romantic. And then
He's such a charmer.
Yeah, I am. One thing you'll know about me is I don't hide anything, and I'm very straightforward. You know where you stand with me.
We both are that way.
Yeah,
That's good.
She's rougher than I am.
We joke that I don't have any tact,
Yeah.
which is not really a joke, but
No.
It's good. It works for you guys. It's great.
Yeah, so but she took over. Basically, she's the director now, and I just kind of I can't say I'm the muscle right now because I don't have much muscle, but I'm usually the one that does all the extractions and stuff, and it makes it easier on me because she's doing a lot of work. People don't realize how much work she does. Her and Kat and our employees, they bust their butt. I mean, we have over 120 species.
Wow.
Like 1,300, 1,400 animals at this time. And there's animals that are going to be giving birth here shortly, so that population will go up. When people ask us what we breed and why we breed, we breed the species that is most needed for a project so that we don't have to take anything out of the wild. Yeah. Also, going back to the science, if we found that component in that group of animals, it's more likely that component's going to be in its offspring also. So we try to keep it that way. And, I've been breeding snakes for 49 years, and it's not me breeding it, it's the two snakes. If you have healthy animals and you don't play with them too much or mess with them too much, they're going to breed if you give them the right environment. I used to go back in the old days and look at the geography books and look at what the temperatures were in those countries and during what time was possibly before people had a lot of the what's going to breed at what. I would just look at the environment and try to figure it out. And when I bred,
that's how a lot of that.
Yeah, well, started. I kind of accidentally bred Argentine rainbow boas back in the 80s because I heard that they needed to be cooled down because they're from Argentina. So I just put them in a place where it was 50 degrees, and I put them together, and they copulated in the formation and reproduced. Oh God, this is terrible. I can't remember his name. Cool it down, man. Laszlo, Joe Laszlo.
Yeah.
Cool it down, man. Cool it down. Everything was about changing the environment a little bit and stuff. But he was an interesting character.
I've heard. Yeah, I did some
he's
research at one point.
But man, for breeding stuff, he was ahead on everybody. He was breeding a lot of stuff. So. But she can talk more about the anti-venoms and stuff like that. And the process of extracting venom, I could teach a monkey to do. It's not like I have a great skill or anything. It's just that I've done it for a while. And you're taking chances. But I take a calculated risk in the sense that I have everything prepared. If I give you a kind of a scenario, when I got bit by the Terrificus, if I didn't have the anti-serum in my hand at the first hospital, I'd be dead because I went into cardiac arrest twice. I went into respiratory arrest, and that's even when I was intubated and receiving antivenom. You know, Terrificus has a high neurotoxin, but it also has a high myotoxin. So it could actually send you into dialysis or renal failure, and you have to have dialysis. The delay of over an hour to 2 hours and administering anti-serum, you get a hodgepodge of what's going to happen to you.
It's
And
wild, man. Wild.
so, you know, when Sean Bush said time is tissue, people always assumed that what he was saying is, you know, loss of finger, stuff like that. No, your organs are tissue. So the time is there. You have to do it right. And with taipans, if you don't get the anti-serum in 4 to 5 hours, you might as well just flush it down the toilet. It's not going to help them. So.
Yeah.
When how much flack did they give you for bringing the serum with you for the Terrificus bite?
None. No,
See,
because here's that argument. Go ahead.
Let him ask.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, no, I was going to say is I've not personally experienced it, but I've heard from several friends and acquaintances that have gone through this where 50% of the time they're like, oh, this person's prepared. We should probably listen to them, put it in them. And the other 50% is like, where did you get this investigatory new drug that you're not allowed to have? And I'm not putting that in you, right?
Right. So
go ahead. I'll let you.
Okay.
You're the brains.
So the thing is, part of the preparation is talking to the hospital ahead of time. It's not only showing up with it. I mean, that's probably the hardest part is getting the antivenom, right? That's the most expensive. It's the most irritating. It's dealing with the government, like all that stuff. But it's not the only thing you need to do.
Yeah.
And so if you have, and you know, every hospital has like an ombudsman or an outreach person or social worker, it doesn't matter. It just needs to be somebody there that can help you navigate the system. And then you go to them and say like, hey, look, I'm a weird person who likes snakes, and here's what I'm doing, and here's the doctor that is on my IND, because you have to have a physician if you have an IND number to have the antivenom.
They can't legally refuse to get
So,
it to you.
Yeah, then they're
in a problem if they let you not take it.
Yeah, right. They
So,
would be putting themselves
you
as
can't
liable, and it's just
you can't possess the anti-serum without having an IND number.
Right.
There were people who brought it into that fake group that they weren't fake; they were overcharging, but they were sending it in. Got seized by.
there was somewhere in Europe that
called itself Red Cross, but it wasn't the Red Cross.
Yeah, they were
from
selling
Thailand.
to the U.S. and that was not really.
And they said, "Well, we have all the permits,"
But
and
they
a bunch of
no.
them got seized.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and it kind of made it harder on us that are doing it legally, because now you have to jump through more hoops because somebody did it up for everybody else instead of asking and stuff. But
Well, but
when I'm
the bottom line is, if you go and have a relationship with who's going to be treating you, then I think that really negates 90% of the doctor not being sure. And then the next 10% is that physician that's signed up on your IND should be available for a phone call.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's part of it too. When I came down here, the first thing I did was go to UK and tell them, you know, I'm not some guy who's a nut who has cobras. I'm a nut who has cobras and has antivenom. And they immediately had me come in and start doing their grand rounds. So I started consulting on bites and everything else and helping them with anti-serum questions, and ever since. So we have almost all the toxicologists and all the orthopedic surgeons are friends with me now. So
That's good. That's great.
You have to advocate for yourself, and part of that advocation is to go in and talk to them and, you know, be prepared, not, you know, show up out of nowhere and you have, I've got an investigational drug. Well, where's your permit for that? You know, if you have a permit and you hand it to them, they can't argue that.
Yeah.
Because that permit gives you permission to have that. That means you have a physician that gave you permission to have it, you know, and they'll use it on you.
There's always somebody who can be a jerk, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, you know, things can go wrong, but the chances of that happening versus there being a giant problem because you can't get the antivenom or it's so far away, it doesn't do any good by the time it gets to you, that's a lot bigger risk.
Yeah.
So it's just, there's a lot of excuses for why people don't get it, but that's what they are, excuses.
Considering I got my IND number when I was 18, and I've had it continuously since then. I'm now switching it over to the zoo because I turned 65, and who knows, what's going to happen from now out. So I wanted to continue on. At one point, it was one of the oldest ones in. They actually stopped a couple of our shipments because it was only like 4 digits or something like that.
Yeah, so
Oh, wow.
there are more older ones around, like some of the
Philadelphia.
Yeah, some of the old zoos have 3-digit IND numbers. Ours is 4-digit.
Yeah.
It's actually a 6-digit number now. And so, I didn't even think about it. And I had just put our 4 digits on there, and they were like, this isn't an IND number because it doesn't have 6 digits.
Yeah.
And she brings in an anti-serum for us and other zoos and stuff. And that helps us when we bring it all in mass to get a better price. And they also will talk to us easier. But during the pandemic, a lot of them were not producing. We even put out a warning about it, but people continued to free handle and just do stuff. And then they sapped several zoos during the pandemic of all their could not be replaced. So that's the other thing that kind of people don't understand is it isn't just replacing the anti-serum. It's getting them to send it to you. And sometimes it takes a few months to get everything done. Sometimes it takes a year.
Wow.
So
you're dealing with places that have different manufacturing goals than taking care of people with, the zoo community or private individuals.
Right.
We're not their primary concern. Their primary concern is where they are in the community there. That's why they're making antivenom, right? It's for their own people. So we're not a big important problem for them.
I once had a person from, I think it was from China, that asked me why we wanted anti-serum from China when we don't have those snakes here. And I'm like, well, it's for the zoos and stuff like that. He goes, well, we have people here that are dying, and he's right. To give you a scenario on the doctors and stuff. When I got bit by the Nivea, right after I extracted from it, got me with one fang. I started the IV on myself on the way to the hospital. Then I started the anti-venom while I was there because in case of anaphylaxis. They put me on the helicopter. They accidentally pulled the IV out of me.
Oh.
I didn't notice that I wasn't getting the anti-venom anymore, but I noticed my heart rate, which is normally when I'm healthy, like 65 to 70 beats a minute. It was 30. So it was real close to paddling you. And I looked up at the flight nurse and I said, you need to give me adrenaline, push 5 vials. She said, I can't do that without a doctor's orders. So I didn't know where we were in the helicopter. You know how discombobulated you are if you're laying down, especially. Soon we landed right about that, and they wheeled me off. Last thing I remember before going on life support, I looked up the doctor and he says, "What do I do, Jim?" And normally that ain't what you want to hear. But I said, and I ended up, being intubated for 24 hours. They had to put a not a pacemaker.
They did an external.
External pacemaker on me because the cardiotoxins were making my heart stop.
Mm-hmm.
So, the anti-serum, I got 15 or 16 vials. I can't remember now. Been a long while, a lot of surgeries. But I got out that next morning, and as I was leaving on the TV, it said Jim Harrison died in UK hospital today.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was kind of freaky. And then I came home and went back to extracting the next day. But my dad didn't find out about it until, because he had a heart condition. I didn't want to find out. And he heard it on Paul Harvey. So
they might not know.
Do you know who Paul Harvey is?
No. I assume it was some kind of news broadcast or something.
Yeah, older people will know who Paul Harvey is.
He was like a radio show, I think.
Yeah,
right?
he did a radio show, and he
was kind of famous. He had this weird voice.
Yeah, he did like upbeat stories and talk about stuff. But it had made national news. Actually, I got home and this is how old I am. We had an answering machine instead of phones. We had an answering machine, and it ran off because the people call me.
Wow.
I don't know if I was dead or what was going on. And I found myself afterwards, if I'm dead, I'm not going to call you back.
Yeah.
But one of the guys from Brazil had called and said that they'd heard I was in bad shape. If anybody got the message, let them know what was going on. And so I did call him back and stuff. But yeah, things get blown out of proportion really fast. With HEPA, you don't have to tell anybody anything. The problem is if an ambulance comes and picks you up, it goes out over the radio.
Yeah.
And it will go out over the radio, snake bite. So now the antennas go up. That's, even if it's only one snake bite, it becomes news because it's different.
Right.
And so I was always told that if it bleeds, it leads. And that's it. If somebody told me once, you make a lightning rod out of yourself and people are going to come after you.
Sure.
I know there's a lot of people who don't like me because I'm straightforward and stuff. It doesn't bother me really because I learned when I was fighting, I never fought in my hometown. So I was always getting beer thrown on me. One time I had somebody throw urine on me.
Oh, geez.
Unfortunately, I kept the guy up for 5 rounds to punish him, and he wasn't the one that did it. So, but but I've learned, people talk. Everybody's tough. So,
yeah. I had an acquaintance who got envenomated, and local species, baby Eastern Diamondback, and he was in the hospital, and none of his friends would come to the hospital, like help him out, like whether it be emotionally or physically, whatever. So I did. All of his snake friends avoided him like the plague, and I was in the ER with him, and this woman comes over with like the mobile nurses station, and she starts talking to him, and he's doped up on everything from Crofab to Dilaudid. They pump and he's all loopy, and she starts to ask him questions, and I was like, who are you, miss? She's like, oh, I'm public relations from so. She worked for the local news that was stationed in the hospital, specifically hired by the hospital for press to get stories. And I was like, no, he's not answering anything. And she's like, who are you? I said, I'm the only person that he knows.
I'm his
that he
power of
trusts.
attorney.
Right. Well, I can't say that because that's a leak. That put me in hot water. So he looks at me. He looks at me as if I'm her, and he goes, tell her I don't want to say anything. And then that was it, But yeah, they want to get that story.
If anybody ever does that to you again, just say HEPA.
Right.
I can walk away and tell the person that's on the bed not to stop talking because they can't. That's illegal.
But that they do it.
They do it, but
until
somebody calls.
There was one of your bites where the
media wanted to come in.
No, they did. They came to UK.
I didn't know that.
You were in UK, so
I was unconscious. So I didn't know.
Yeah, Jim was busy.
Yeah, he was alternately occupied, but they came to like the front doors of the hospital and waited for me to go out.
Wow. Yeah, this lady was trying to get him to verbally.
I don't remember that story at all, man.
I mean,
that's
a perfect example of why we need to be if we are a community, we need to be somewhat aware of how we look to people who are not part of the community.
I tell her all the time, the gray area is the people who pass the laws. You're never going to get the animal rights people to come into the middle. You're not going to get the people who are really far off the other side to come to the middle.
No.
The people you have to convince to not pass laws or not pass, I believe in permit systems. I believe in permit systems that are doable, that anybody could do. It's not exclusive, exclusively certain people can do it. It's doable. But the people you need to convince are people in the gray area. But when they see the articles that are coming out and all the crap on the internet, it's a lightning rod,
Yeah.
you know.
But
And-
I will
but the
say,
thing about it, when it happens to me, I screw up. Everybody screws up. We have a plan, but at the same time, they don't. It's not right. I don't think it's right at all. They don't look at me as like a private keeper type person. They look at me as somebody who's saving lives and hopefully doing what, you know, does save lives. I mean, working on cancer, drugs, and everything else. So, and opiate
yeah, well, I mean,
replacement. So, you know,
we're in a little bit different category, but the community of people is so small anyway, right? Like you know, snake people are not exactly. Yeah, I mean that. You know,
it's larger
though,
than
actually, when you were in PT this morning, so we kind of know the PT people. I mean, we do know the PT people now too, and so the receptionist there, she was asking me in the town of Winchester, where his PT is, which is like 20, 30 miles from us. This summer, there was someone who had a pet boa that escaped, and the story is. It's just kind of one of those things where it's like everything went wrong. They had gone on vacation and like left it with someone, and that person brought it back and just like left it in a dog carrier outside of their garage or something ridiculous.
Oh, jeez.
Like that. And so it pushed its way out. They ended up finding the snake,
which is good.
But yeah, like the snake's okay. It has a happy ending. But she was saying, well, they said that, you know, people didn't need to be worried because, you know, the snake wouldn't hurt their kids and stuff. And is that really true? And, you know, she was asking me, and I was like, yes, it's not going to come and upset your children, you know. But, you know, the point is, this is a very nice lady who is just a, you know, a normal lady, and she doesn't know things about animals. That's not her forte, her wheelhouse, whatever. And so she didn't really believe that wasn't a dangerous animal.
Yeah.
You know, and then when you have something that actually is dangerous, like a venomous snake is, you cannot argue that it isn't. Even if we all know the snake doesn't have any desire to bite you, right? Like we all know that. But you cannot say this is a harmless animal.
Right.
And so then when you have that, the people like her are like, what is she supposed to think? Like, you know, so you have to be like better. And I don't know how we control that. Like, you can't control what other people do. But what we think is we just have to say stuff.
When I used to train law enforcement and defensive tactics and stuff, I used to tell them, you know, you have to hold yourself at a higher level of ethics. And whether it's right or wrong, you have to.
Yeah.
There's, I mean, I know there's bad cops. I arrested bad cops, but I mean, you have to be higher level, because if you're not, you're going to be dragged down here. Even if they're high levels, a lot of times you get dragged down here. But you know, I've said this a long time ago, and you know, some people are saying it now too. Is that you need to police yourself, because if you get policed, you're not going to like it.
Yeah,
that's going to be.
I guess the hardest part with that is just like, how do we act? Like, what's the actionable thing of doing that? I mean, sort of.
Well, that's
mocking, like not necessarily mocking, but like calling the people out, the bad actors, and
I mean, yes,
acknowledging that what they're doing is dumb. You know, that only goes so far, because you can't force them to stop doing what they're doing.
You can't control people.
What
you could not sell to people though if you know that they're on that.
Yeah, that's going to be the top of the list.
So that is an actionable thing.
Yes.
Now, if you're not the one that's selling to them, then you know.
Even USARC and stuff could come up with some kind of guidelines, and they could preach those guidelines, and they could also go to the legislation or stuff before they enact a law you don't want, and that's something that's workable. And that's something that would have to be what you guys work out among yourselves. We don't mind helping. I mean, we never said we won't send anti-sim out again to responsible people. We're not going to send it out to free handlers. I'm sorry, you know, they chose it. They're making money, some of them, and I'm not going to endanger my keepers for somebody who's doing something that is eventually going to catch up with them.
We're responsible for employees.
Yeah, well, that goes back to OSHA. You know, we wouldn't be able to be open if we didn't have the internet, because we have to have it on grounds to have our insurance they have OSHA, everything. So that's something people
Well,
don't think about.
you can not have it on ground, but then you can't really work the animal.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not okay either.
When
right?
Columbus
So-
Zoo had a cobra bite in Mansfield, I ended up sending up like 10, 15 bottles of anti-serum to them to back them up because they were told they could not feed their animals, they could not clean their animals. And, the peanut counters, even if you sign something, say, I don't care, it's like everybody tells me they don't care. They're the ones who call us at midnight and beg us to bail and clean their mess up.
And it's always at midnight. It's always at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
So I taught venomous apprenticeship in Florida for over a decade to get the hours for the state license. And
Mhm.
one of the things I always preached to everyone was you never start handling venomous after 10 p.m.
Right.
You just like if you started at 8 and you've taken some breaks and you're still cleaning poo because you work a 9-to-5 job and you're after 10 and you started early, that's fine. But don't be watching TV and say, you know what, it's 11:30. I think I'm gonna go feed some Diamondbacks. Like
Yeah.
that's just a bad idea. But I don't know why is it always after?
Well, I think part of it isn't that they started at midnight. It's that they got bit at
They think
8
it's
or
gonna be a
9 or
draw.
10.
Okay.
They're like, oh man, did this really happen? Which I understand. You don't want to.
Yeah.
It's a bad thing, right? You don't want
Right.
to. You don't want to deal with it if you don't have to. So I think there's some denial there, and then, you really don't want to. It's a big expense, and
Oh, yeah.
all that, and then. So I think there's some delay like that happens, but it is definitely true. Like we've gotten calls absolutely in the middle of the night, and I know there were calls for this bite in the middle of the night that didn't get answered because not to us. Nobody ever actually called us.
Right.
But there were calls to other facilities that didn't get answered because those people were sleeping.
Yeah.
And they didn't. I mean, it wasn't even intentional. They just didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Well, the time of tissue thing was that, a lot of people who get bitten take bad advice from the internet. I always say, don't get your medical advice from the internet.
Right.
Or legal advice. Because I've had people tell people just stay home, and I've ended up doing autopsies on them.
Wow.
They stayed home and died because by the time you're in renal failure, you're gone. You're not going to be able to get to the phone.
Well, and if
you're not going to do,
stop breathing,
or
there's
you
not.
Yeah, or you start bleeding in the brain
Mhm.
and stuff like that. I mean, there was one case where a woman was bit by a timber that I reviewed, and she was bitten. She went and she got crofab. They sent her home within 24 hours, and they mentioned nothing to her about reoccurrence at 72 hours.
Really?
She goes home, she has a headache, she calls back, and somebody at the hospital tells her, I don't know if it was a nurse or somebody else, told her to take an aspirin. Well, she took an anticoagulant on top of an anticoagulant where there was recurrence, and she laid down and died.
Wow.
It bled out into the brain.
Damn.
So, see,
I think, it's important to realize that, I think most venomous people know that death from snake bite is rare. And most snake bites are probably survivable with no treatment whatsoever. But you don't know when your number is up.
I'll say you don't know the pre-existing condition.
Right, like you don't know, maybe
Sure.
you got, an aneurysm or something you're unaware
I
of.
reviewed a guy who was self-immunizing with cottonhead venom, and he ended up having an anaphylactic reaction to a bite. And so he made himself allergic to the venom by trying to make himself immune because he had no clue what immunization really is.
Yeah.
That eventually your body's going to fight it. The other problem with like shooting up with venom, it has its own little subculture, is it damages the organs. You look at a lot of the guys and they look like they're on crack or something. They're shaking and everything. It's because they've damaged their neurological system and their kidneys.
Wow.
Right now, people are still preaching that stuff. We're so beyond that now. We're starting to make venoms in a test tube. They're
Right.
gonna start making antivenoms that will cover multiple species, and that
Yeah, there's
it's
some
years
really
in the
cool
future,
stuff.
but there's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff people are doing. So we encourage people to get as much education as possible, but the internet, you got to kind of pick and choose your information.
For sure.
And I always tell people too, when they hear worship, when you open up the curtain, it's not going to be what you want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The person is a human. They have frailties. They're going to do something, that you don't like or something. But when it comes to people with venomous, most of the people I know, I hate to say this, that are underground never get either caught unless their girlfriends get mad at them, or vice versa. Somebody gets in an argument, they show up because they don't put themselves out there. They don't do stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you have a warrant for yourself, don't go speeding down the highway. So
Yeah, right.
So that's a lot of the old keepers and never so underground, nobody knew them.
Yeah.
Were good at what they did. And that's
Well-
why they were under. That's why nobody heard from them. So they didn't get it. They didn't have social media really, and if they did, those guys would have never gotten on it.
Mm-hmm.
So it just they had the passion for having the snake, and obviously I understand that. So
I mean, it seems to me that there's this sort of romanticized idea over, in general that, I get bit. Okay, I'll just go to the hospital and the doctor will automatically know what to do and how to fix me and everything. And
That's not true for
I've
even
right.
takes out of it, right? Like how many? We all know somebody who's got some problem that couldn't get solved, right?
But it's like to expect that the doctor's just going to be like, oh, you got a gaboon bite. Okay, I know exactly what to do. Like, there's just this weird idea that it's like also assuming that you're even going to be conscious when you get to the hospital, assuming you even got there in the first place. Like,
Yeah.
there's this whole just sort of reality of these situations that I feel like is just lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is just it's inconvenient, right? Like
Sure.
it's you want to do what you want to do, and if there's something about that that's unlikely but very serious, it's a lot easier to just assume that it'll work out and be okay, or that you won't get bit, or that this snake would never do that, or
Mhm.
Well, talking about people saying stuff, you guys remember the Route 2 that killed the woman in Cincinnati?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Yes.
Okay.
That was semi-recent, wasn't it?
It was, well,
that's maybe
90s.
Oh, okay. No, I'm thinking of something
was it
else.
in the 90s?
Yeah, they put it on the
It might
last
have
time.
been early 2000s.
Maybe. I can't remember, but they did an episode about it on Fatal Attractions. And
Oh, yep. That's how. Okay, that's what I remember it from.
we argued with them while we were filming about stuff, because the one guy asked me, how did she feel? And I'm like, how would I know how anybody feels?
Yeah.
This pain threshold stuff, that's all guesstimate. It's not real science, because everybody has a different pain threshold. I've been able to stitch myself up without Novocaine before.
But if he stubs his toe,
if I stub my toe, it hurts. It doesn't make sense. So, but what she did was, when she in the if you remember the Fatal Attraction, they said she came into the hospital, they rolled her in, and she told them it was an Uruchi bite. She didn't say that. What she said was, I had a timber rattlesnake bite, and they gave her Crofab.
Oh wow.
She didn't. She did leave the hospital. She went home, and she died there
Wow.
because she had a clot in the brain.
Jeez.
She had an aneurysm that was there before the snake bite, but it was exacerbated by the snake bite. And eventually, when you have an aneurysm, you're going to die anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just set it off. I had a guy I did an autopsy on who was bitten by a garter snake. Now, they had me come look at the snake and then go down and observe the autopsy. The snake was chopped in 7 pieces, and it was just a garter snake. So I walked down there, and you weigh the heart, and I forget what it weighed, but it was like 5 times heavier than it was supposed to be. His heart was so thick, it wasn't going to pump. He was one of those people that if you said boo, he was going to have a heart attack. So he convinced himself he was dying because of the snake bite. You
Wow.
know? So, I mean, it's happened with law enforcement people when I trained with the SWAT and stuff. One of the instructors was talking about incidents where people were shot through and through, no organs damaged, they died. And they died because they knew they were going to die. So his motto and my motto is, I'm not dead till I'm dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to keep fighting. And so I will say, having died a few times, it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to die than come back, really, because it wrecks your body.
Wow. It's funny you mentioned that story about the Arutu. So I had a friend who I haven't talked to him in years, damn near decades. I don't even know if he lives in my state anymore, but he was getting hours for venomous with me. This was 20 years ago. And he went up keeping a fertile ants illegally. And one night at dinner time, whatever, he can you guys hear my dog barking or no?
Yeah.
Barely.
Okay, all right. So he winds up cleaning the cage. It gets away from him. It starts going underneath a washing machine. He grabs it by the tail and pulls it out, and it whacks him on the thumb. Well, this is like, I don't know, 8 o'clock at night. And he's like, all right, I think I got it through and through. I got no pain. I got no nothing. Now, he did not have antivenom, but he had talked to his doctor and had talked to the ER place and said, oh, I keep venomous snakes, blah, blah, blah. Well, the first thing he did bad was he had a couple glasses of rum just to kind of take the edge off.
Yeah.
And he called me
Post-bite?
and called me around midnight, told me what happened. And I was like, all right, well, you got to go to the hospital. I was like, you got to go. I said, even if it's a dry bite, even if it's through and through, you know, you got to go just in case. Oh, I don't know. And he's swollen it over. He's a little tipsy. Well, come 3 a.m, the pain finally turned on. And now his arm's on fire. So he's like, all right, I'm going to go. But he is, again, keeping it illegally. So he tells them it's an Eastern Diamondback. And they gave him like 10 vials of Crofab. And he gets a massive blood infection. And the next day, they're like, look, the venom symptoms have subsided. I think he got residual venom on a fang. I don't think he got a real dose. I think he got just enough to make it spicy, so to speak. But the Crofab gave him a horrible blood infection. So they're like, look, we're going to amputate your hand. We don't know what to do. This is what we're going to do. And he's like, well, where's my doctor? Where are the 2 doctors I talked to? I said, man, this is South Florida. There's 27 ER doctors a week. Like, which one's yours? It's just a revolving door of doctors. So like, I don't know what to do. So he winds up breaking out of the hospital in his gown. He winds up calling like the 1-800 taxi number on his cell phone, gets in a taxi in a hospital gown, tells his girlfriend to find a hand surgeon or prosthetic surgeon, whatever, goes to the hand surgeon, winds up doing a skin graft and perfectly fine. Yeah. But like all of that could have been avoided.
Well, I will.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I will tell you that both ROPs I observed, and I had the unfortunate thing of having this happen, is up to 6 to 8 days post bite.
Yeah.
Have wraparound abscesses in the hand.
Really?
And I had that happen with both ROPs Atrox bite. So they take me back in, do surgery, and this is on our YouTube channel. When they're pulling the gauze out, it's like 3rd, 4th day they were doing it.
Yeah.
The first time they pulled it out, they pulled 3 feet of gauze out.
I remember watching that because I was just like, it gave me the willies, man. Like I'm weird about.
Well,
it made an Animal Planet lady about pass out.
Yeah, they when somebody,
Back in
the
the
producer was came, but they almost passed out. But the thing about it is that I can't take any morphine. It makes me stop breathing, and they give it to me because my blood pressure was going up in the ER. And when the fan hit my hand, it felt like somebody was driving nails through my hand. And this is the initial bite. So they put me on morphine. I was gassed. I mean, I was feeling fine. They did something they shouldn't do, and they had one nurse take me to ICU. You're supposed to have 2. She put me in the elevator, and I went from breathing to not breathing. So she gave me Narcan. I bit down so hard that I have really deformed teeth anyway, but I bit down and I broke 2 of my teeth.
Jesus.
I kicked the bottom of the bed off. It felt like somebody hit me with a sledgehammer because that Narcan just brings you up immediately.
Oh, yeah.
And so when they were doing that with the gauze, the first time they did it, they gave me an oxy. And it did not do crap. and she started pulling it out, and she saw my eyes roll back in my head. I was trying to be cool, but I'll tell you what, torture makes false statements. I would have told them anything they wanted to hear. Stop.
Really?
Yeah, that pain. Once you hit a certain point, I mean, it's bad. But that was when they pulled the 3 feet. After that, they started giving me a tiny bit of Dilaudid, but then they had to have a pain specialist stand there with Narcan because they didn't know if I was going to go out on it.
Yeah.
I don't get to take heavy drugs. I'm sensitive to all of them, it seems.
Jeez.
But
man.
Yeah, so the wraparound abscesses is really common. We took samples to look at cultures, and it came back as
Nothing.
nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's just your body overreacting, but
Mhm.
they didn't find any known type of bacteria. But that doesn't mean it wasn't something that isn't known. So
Yeah.
it's only what's in their test pet, stuff.
Yeah,
But-
yeah.
But that was, I ended up in the hospital with the hand surgery stuff for about 2 weeks.
Wow.
About to get out of a week, and he goes, "Well, I'm going to send you back down for an MRI." And he actually sent her home to go get my clothes, and he did the MRI. And he goes, "We got to go back to OR, because another abscess had formed." So they went back and cut me open again, and decided to stay another week.
Wow. Wild,
But
man.
that was the worst, definitely the worst bite.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah, that left, and that is why my hand, it won't bend. I had microfractures in my hand from before, from
Mhm.
boxing and being boxing and kickboxing, and those they think, because the hand surgeon who did my work is one of the guys who did from the team that did hand transplant, and he looked at the X-ray. I couldn't see it because he was blocking it. And then he turned around and he goes, "I can't do anything for you." He says, hand's probably not going to be functional. And
Wow.
it fused to the wrist, so I can't bend my wrist. And then it just in here is just a bone, solid bone. Yeah, it's almost solid bone.
This
Yeah,
is all
yeah.
fused.
If I'm going to
So like all the carpals
yeah.
are fused together
Yeah.
basically.
This is from a desert horn viper bite. I got gaseous gangrene. I actually went in and had my hand surgeon at that time do a local, and then I dissected my finger.
That was psoriasis.
So that's yeah.
Wow.
And then this finger is a cheap weightlifting bench. This is the one everybody focuses on. But we had it in a bottle of formaldehyde. And one of the guys decided to be a clown. One of the guys was doing his PhD. And he took it to a bunch of zoos and a strip club and a radio show and all this stuff. And I was getting pictures of the male with a
That's pretty
fingerprint
good.
on the back saying, "Wish we were still attached."
Oh man. Wow.
It
That's
ended
great.
up, the last pictures I got were people dressed as vampires at the lady who wrote Interview with a Vampire.
And rice.
Anne Rice.
Yeah.
She had a Halloween party every year down in New Orleans, and she'd bring in actors and stuff to dress them up apparently. And one of our friends was one of those people who was doing that. And she decided to take the finger down there. So there's people holding my finger.
Oh man. Wow.
But that's where it disappeared. Now I told
never
that
heard from it again.
I told that story when I was on To Tell the Truth right before the pandemic and stuff, and they edited that story out and left in other stories. But they said that was too macabre, and I'm like, they have Temptation Island and all this other crap on TV. My inanimate finger is, more scary than anything else apparently.
Belongs
So-
in New Orleans now.
I was gonna say some bartender's ledge in the barge in New Orleans.
I think
Yes.
I think it's one of the actors because they're all really goth. I think it's in a necklace.
Wow.
Somebody put in an amber and made a necklace out of it. That's my thought, but I don't know that for a fact. But yeah, well, the reason I kept that finger wasn't just to be macabre, but one, nobody would have believed it was a snake bite, so it had the broken bones and all that stuff. But the main reason was when I took the tip of the finger off here, they charged me to tell me what I already knew. They sent it to pathology instead of incinerating and gave me like a couple $1,000 bill.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I knew it was gaseous gangrene. I will tell you something. If you ever get gaseous gangrene, you won't stand yourself. I had to sleep with my arm away from me because it was so foul smelling.
Yeah.
Oof.
Wow.
It's called gaseous gangrene. But that's the other thing I've seen with people who get bit and then they survive and they have tissue damage and the gaseous gangrene sets up and they think, oh, it's okay. It spreads to joints, but it doesn't stop at your wrist as a joint. The next place it goes is to your elbow. If it goes past your elbow, you're dead. So you have to be amputated at your elbow if you let it spread. So
Wow.
you have to get it amputated or cleaned out or whatever before it starts spreading. So if you just stay home and don't do anything, there's a possibility that snake bite may not kill you. It's just the after effects. So,
Yeah.
And the other thing that happens, people don't realize, is after a snake bite, you have to go through physical therapy if you've had a really bad, one that affects your muscles and, it has a myotoxin and some of the neurotoxins will just mess up the presynaptic, postsynaptic together will mess up your muscles, and especially if you wait too long.
Yeah.
It's not reversible.
Crazy.
Has the oh, go ahead, Phil.
Oh, it's real quick while we're on the topic. What were some of the other effects of the Cerastes? Well, did you get anti-venom or no?
Nah, I didn't take antivenom.
Okay.
What had happened was already there. The necrosis was there. It wasn't spreading. I didn't swell past there. What actually happened was more tubing stuff at the time, and I was sexing the Cerastes, which it's easy just to see it, but I was doing it to show another person it was helping me. And I won't say who it is because I don't want to embarrass them. They pulled the tail and pulled it out of my hand, and I went to re-grab it so it wouldn't bite him. So my philosophy is it's my mistake. I'm the one in charge. I will take a bite before I let it bite some innocent person.
Sure.
And every person who tells me that, a lot of times they're full of crap. But I've actually demonstrated that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are saying, people will say, well, I don't need any of them. I'll never get bit, or their egos kill absolute. It's you start believing. My dad used to say, if you start believing your press clippings, you're dangerous to yourself and everybody around you.
Yeah.
So you have to realize that at any time you never underestimate anything. The guy who kicked the crap out of me in the ring were the guys I was supposed to beat. Yeah, it's a mental thing,
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Has the process as far as getting anti-venom now, if you're a private keeper, is that pretty much the same? I know there was a point where you guys had mentioned it's not nearly as difficult as people think it is, and you had talked about, I think, Cothia anti-venom in particular, but that's kind of the one thing that we hear a lot is, anti-venom's expensive, it's really hard to get. Has that changed at all since that kind of made its rounds? Or
it's annoying, I think, more than anything else. So actually there's now a really great resource.
Zoe.
Yeah, now I'm gonna forget the exact name of it. So.
To give you an idea, the Cothia anti-serum, they now have a polyvalent for all neuro bites from Thailand. That would cover it. That's like $60-75 a vial.
Mm-hmm.
10 vials is probably the max you'll need if you get it in time. When you see multiple vials used, it's usually because it started late and they keep giving it, hoping that something's going to correct itself, and it's not.
An anti-venom support group. I couldn't remember what order the words were in. So Zoe in particular, I helped her bring in anti-venom last year before. And she basically took my little PDF info thing and has turned it into like way more than I ever thought to do. She's got specific instructions on how to fill out all the forms. She's got answers to questions. She's got what you need to do and how much it costs and when to do it and how long it takes and then who to contact. And so there's really nothing that you have to figure out on your own now because she's done all that legwork.
Excellent.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's great. And so to me, the biggest hurdle was always just that you have to deal with the government. And so that takes time. You know, they don't do something in 24 hours when you send something to a government agency. You know, it just doesn't happen.
And you're dealing with two governments.
Yeah, well, you're dealing with two U.S. government agencies, and then you're dealing with whatever foreign provider, you know, however that situation is, which some of them are government run. As far as expense goes, I think I have two things to say. One is it really depends on what you're getting. Like Thyroid Cross, for example, that's what you were saying, is not very expensive. Australian is probably the most expensive per vial, though Australian vials are really large and the equivalent of, you know, 4 or 5 vials of anything else. So to me, though, that really is a moot point. You know, people do lots and lots of different things as hobbies. I'm also a horse person. That's an expensive hobby, though I managed to do it cheaper than some people do, but it's still an expensive hobby, right? People like to go fishing, and some people buy a fishing rod from Amazon, and some people go buy a boat, and that's not cheap. And people like to do skiing. I mean, just anything
it's all relative.
Yeah, there's always an expense involved if you're going to have a hobby or an avocation that you enjoy doing. And in my opinion, antivenom is just part of that expense if you want to have venomous snakes as your hobby. And that's kind of it. Like, there is no more to be discussed to me than that. Like, it's just part of what you have to do and to be responsible about it.
And a lot of the zoos are now going to where they're having like biomes where they only have like Asian animals.
Right.
If you decide what species you want, there's polyvalents for just about everything, and you can get a neat group like Bothrops. You know, you can get some neat Bothrops, and if you want cobras, you can get the Thai Nemo, and it covers almost all that, and it covers crates. So,
I think. I mean, yes, it is an expense, but it's not. I don't know. I mean, I think people spend equally as much on enclosures and animals.
Yeah, I think, but it also comes down to people like myself. I've been afraid of in certain cases of highway robbery where I look at the price sheets per whatever email I got, and you know, it's all in US dollars, and they say, okay, you know, each vial is $120 US, and then I come to find out, oh no, it's $1,200 a vial. And it's like, because that's the pharmaceutical company that I'm buying it from. So like, if, you know, Jim's Pharmaceuticals says, oh yeah, it's $120, but then I'm buying it from Smitty's Pharmaceuticals, who's the distributor, and now I'm paying 10 or 15 times that much. Like, I think, what is it, Crofab?
Slight markup.
Yeah, Crofab in a hospital is like $3,500.
Yeah, so keep in mind that any drug that you get in a hospital in the U.S., it's got a huge markup on it.
Right.
That's just how our system functions.
I mean, they've tried to charge me for my own anti-serum, but I've gotten
really.
You gotta check your bill.
You have to check your bill. I tell them, you didn't use that Band-Aid on me. Why'd you open it?
As far as foreign antivenoms go, like outside of the U.S., if you get Bioclone, which is the same company that makes Anavip, which is now an approved drug here in the US. But they also make a Tri, and they make a Coral. And stuff.
This is Mexican, right?
Yeah. So they have an agreement to be distributed in the US by Rare Disease Therapeutics, and they do charge a markup. I don't know what Bioclone charges RDT, like that. I'm not privy to that information, but it is marked up. But by the same token, RDT is also the company that got Anavip approved for sale, like got the FDA approval to have it here as an additional antivenom to Crofab. So they yeah, they made money off of it, but they also did a pretty good thing for the United States, in my opinion, by having that, working to get that other antivenom approved, which is
And-
not free to do
and
your FDA.
And Antivip's lyophilized, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's 10
Yeah.
times better as it is. And
I mean,
now
there are a lot of things about Antivip that we really like.
yeah, and just ballpark, how much is Antivip per vial for us civilians?
It's comparable to what CrowFab is.
Okay.
It comes individually, like in most hospitals.
Okay.
Now, if you're gonna buy it as a zoo or as an individual, and you're gonna get the Tri or the Coralman or something like that, then it's like $600 a vial, $800 a vial, something like that. So that's a lot different than
Still cheaper than the hospital.
Yeah. So the hospital is going to be your largest source of markup. Now, if you're buying from South Africa or Australia or Thailand, then there is no middleman.
Right.
You're buying it from the manufacturer when you're a U.S. person like that. Now, sometimes the shipping is astronomical.
Yeah.
Like Australian has to be shipped in like a cold chain, and they send it via this fancy courier, and it's got this like temperature controlled like box that it comes in, and it has actually like temperature recorders, and you have to send that back to them.
Yeah.
Like it's thousands of dollars to import Australian just for the shipping.
Mm-hmm.
So there are things that are expensive, but then again, other things cost money too. So
Yeah.
you just have to decide, if it's worth it to you. And I mean, that's why not a lot of zoos have Australian venomous snakes in the United States, because is it really logical to pay that much for one animal to exhibit?
Yeah.
And for some of them, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have boom slangs here at KRZ, even though we know we could get them tomorrow if we wanted to, because that antivenom is very expensive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make financial sense to pay, I think it's like $6,000 a vial. That's probably the most expensive antivenom that I know of.
But you only need 2 vials to treat a bite. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not
But
like you need 100 vials. But the only place in the United States that I believe has the anti-simp at this point is Reptile Gardens, because they have, they try to give us a bunch of them. That's why.
That's why we know we can get them.
Yeah. Well, we know Cherry too. He's a good guy. So. But,
Yeah, and that boomslang monovalent, that's SAFP, and that's refrigerated too, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I remember looking at a bunch of SAFP stuff, because most of the stuff I keep is African. And I remember looking, because I had a boomslang at one point, I do not anymore. And I remember looking at it, I didn't think it was that much money. I'm wondering if it's gone up that much. I remember it being like $300 or $400.
I mean, if it was a few years back, then yeah, it's changed. They have gone up. I mean, when I first started bringing in like just the polyvalent, I want to say it was like $170 a vial or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 300 grand or something.
It's like last time I want to say it was $400, $420 maybe last time. But that's over 25 years.
Oh wow.
So that's pretty much the state of inflation anyway. Not that I'm happy about it in any aspect of my life, but that's
and right now
reality.
the South African polyvalent is going through a lot of issues.
Really?
Yeah, they have been not
we haven't gotten it in a while.
Yeah, we've had to use a different
we've been
group that makes
keeping
Innisert.
Innisert.
Yeah.
But
And from what I gather, Innisert is honestly the best that there is right now.
well, there is
Just Innistan in general.
Yeah, South African is the gold standard.
Oh really?
Yeah, I mean Innisert, like the ASF people, the Asclepius Snakebite Foundation people have been using it with really great success in their clinic in Guinea, and so it's definitely like a great option to have, but keep in mind it just hasn't been around as long. So, the South African polyvalent has been used on snakes from all over the continent in zoos and private collections, for however long it's been around,
Decades.
a long time. Yeah. And so, like, we know more about its efficacy in real world applications than we do about Inoserp. So, I don't want to say something bad about Inoserp, but also, like, there's a reason why clinical trials are important, and that just, there hasn't been enough time for all of those things to happen.
The liquid-based antiserums, Australia and South Africa, until you see precipitants in it, it's still got great effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
But you hold it up to the light and you see little floaty things in there. That's not, you shouldn't put that in there. That's proteins that are binded, and that'll send you into anaphylaxia. Now, I do know of a couple of cases where they've filtered the antiserum, get those bad things out, and used it anywhere because nothing was available. So it was a crapshoot.
Yeah.
We don't.
It's a little scary.
The problem is with snakebite treatment is you survive. Did you survive because of the treatment, or were you going to survive anyway? I mean, that's where the dead chicken over your head, and around here it's kerosene on the bite.
Or that guy shot his.
Oh God. I was when I was doing the carnivals and stuff. There was lots of carnies. I have lots of stories, but this guy came up that was working at a carnival, and he goes, "My dad saved my life. I got bit by a copperhead, and he took a 45 and he blew my thumb off." And I'm like,
Jesus.
Probably. And then he had a picture of the snake. It was a water snake.
Wow.
I didn't tell him shit because he'd probably go home and kill his dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
Glad you're still here, man.
Smile and nod.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of that working the carnivals and stuff. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the Innocent stuff because, like I said, I've been really, really fascinated with it as of late. And my the past few years, I've been Atractaspis addicted, and I kept a small group of irregularis for a while, and the last one just passed away. I was trying to keep them naturalistic, and it was a rough couple of years, but it's still an amazing experience. And it's been a real project, and I haven't abandoned the genus, but I'm pretty sure I'm done with that species specifically. They just don't want to live in captivity.
Have you bred?
No, the whole thing was it's about 3 years to get them eaten good. Yeah, not tube feeding. And I wanted to bring it up that you guys have. I'm sorry, you guys have some species.
We have some.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've bred them a couple times.
So we have Phalax, and we have, I don't even remember now what we have. Sorry, this is really late for us.
Oh, that's cool. It's cool.
What are the other
I don't know
ones?
because I haven't even seen them.
Dahomiensis.
Okay, Dahomiensis. So I had one Dahomiensis, and then
Okay.
I had like 6 irregularis, but
Okay.
the Dahomiensis, super cool. Anyway, I digress. The whole point of the me bringing this up was to segue into you guys and your stilettos, but also to say that I guess any innocent, I don't know if it's the Pan-African, but one of them, as of production post 2020 or something, will take care of almost anything in the equatorial or like the microlepidota clade. So like Phalax and Dahomiensis, and it'll actually work on that, which I thought was crazy. And I didn't know if you guys had a hand in that in terms of your extractions or what you were doing with your stilettos.
No, we haven't. The coolest thing we've done with our stilettos actually isn't venom related. I'll tell you in a second. But
yeah,
I mean, you basically, I know what you know is that, and I know that the ASF people have used it.
Yeah.
There. So that, I mean, yay, right? Like,
yay, yeah.
Yeah.
You're very big fans of the ASF folks.
Yeah, most
they're
definitely.
good people. Our stilettos, we actually were contacted by a guy named Paul Weldon who worked at the Smithsonian. Unfortunately, he's passed away, but he was doing work on the musk secretions
We can
of
send you the
various
paper
things.
if you want it.
I would very much like that. Yes, please.
Well, but some of this isn't published because he passed away.
Yeah.
And he was theorizing that some of their secretions, like the volatile compounds in their secretions, actually are ant deterrents.
Really?
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so, like, because they're, on the ground, in the ground,
Yeah.
burrowing and laying eggs in the ground and all of those things, that actually was a protective measure for the snakes.
Really?
How do
And
you go about coming to that conclusion? Do you just like
He's the center of
he
the
was
laws.
a crazy guy. Like, he was so interesting to talk to. And so he came and took samples from them a couple of times. And yeah, we had a really fun time with him. He's just a neat person. But yeah, that was really cool. And he would talk about how, like, I mean, dogs and cats will roll around and
Right.
a lot of that actually has to do with like external parasite control.
Interesting.
And yeah, like, it's not the only reason that they do that, but that is one of the reasons that they'll roll around and stuff. That seems like an odd.
Very interesting. So
For
it's
us.
crazy.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's crazy you bring that up. So I rarely in my years of doing this kept legitimate notes on anything, because I'm not that guy. You know what I mean? And I really wanted to focus on observations and record keeping with this group of Actrix aspis that I had, simply because I was just trying to keep them naturalistic and not tube feed them like so many venom extractors do. And so many people, they just tube feed it because it's easy, keep them alive, keep them sterile. No, I wanted leaf litter. I wanted some bioactivity to it. I wanted to try and make it a little piece of West Africa. And I noticed multiple specimens doing this rubbing thing, where they basically rub their face and their own body against themselves. Not like an echis or an egg eater that's going to rasp, but almost like a polishing. And the term polishing was actually coined, our friend, Dr. Travis Wyman. He keeps Ramphiophis, and he's got several different species of Ramphiophis, and he notices them do it too. And he always assumed it was some kind of grooming, right? Because of the way their scalation is. But now you say that there's like a bug deterrent.
Yeah.
That's
super interesting.
It's crazy. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have video of it, and it's a polishing. It's like them coming by and just slowly.
Yeah, he sent a video of it. It's very weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Our one of our employees is really interested in the Actrix aspis too. I'm sure he would be thrilled to share video clips.
Should tell him about the deal, or don't tell him his name, but sent us the wrong.
Oh yeah, we also have a we're not sure of the species, but it's an Ambulodipsis.
Oh really?
Yeah, that came in as an Actrix aspis.
Do you know the locality or no?
Not specific enough to be super helpful.
And it looks like a stiletto, so it's drab and unrecognizable.
Yeah, but of course they behave differently.
Right.
And so when it was in quarantine, I was like, I just thought it was a weird one. I didn't look at it that much. It wasn't counting scales. And then this employee of ours, Brock, he was like, I think we need to maybe like take some close-up photos of that and count some things and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, lo and behold.
Yeah, I had a very similar scenario where I thought I was getting Dahomiensis, and I wound up getting one of them. And at the same time, the importer said, "Hey man, I got this thing. It came in with some egg-eating snakes from South Africa. It's called a macrolapse." And I was like, oh. So I got one of those, and I kept it for like 6 to 8 months, and it passed away. But that whole we have another show. It's called Venom Exchange Radio, and I hope to have you guys on there at some point. It's my friend Nipper and I talking exclusively about venomous stuff, and we basically have coined the phrase. It's part of the Dirt Snake Mafia. So you guys are honorary members in the Dirt Snake Mafia.
Well, the one thing, when we bred them the first time, they have very large eggs. They usually have 3 to 4.
Right.
Yeah, they're
the
big
first
and
time
long.
we went to take it out, she came sideways and sliced the egg completely up.
Really?
Yeah. So if they're sometimes they'll coil around them. You want to take the eggs away from them, you've got to be very, very careful. Because
Do you think that was unintentional, or do you think that was sacrificial?
It was unintentional. It was her reacting to the hook or whatever the tool was and being like,
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
So,
you know,
And this
sure,
was Phalix?
yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Super cool. Oh, was there any courtship?
I don't know that we ever saw them do much of anything.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I feel like that's the
I-
whole species. In a nutshell.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, the most remarkable thing about breeding them that just seemed remarkable to me was that they pretty much just ate pinky mice with no problem.
yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
freaking out about
they were
getting
easy. We
insects,
were like, we're gonna have to get
centipedes,
some
and-
sort of weird bug,
Yeah,
or
or
what are we
something,
gonna have to
and
do? And they were just like, oh,
so
mice,
we put
okay.
eggs and they ate 'em, so.
Yeah, it took me about 6 to 9 months to get the first 3 snakes to eat anything.
Yeah.
And one of them took to cooked Chinese snails. Another one came on to live day-old pinky mice that I rubbed against Cordillus lizard shed skin. And then the third one wound up eating a euthanized blue-tail skink from that area, but wanted nothing to do with it while it was alive. So, and then after that, after learning that, I slowly started to change things, and I eventually got them on pinkies. Live pinkies was the weapon of choice, and I've got some really cool videos of them, you know, doing their stabby thing and coiling around it, and but yeah, it was a over 3-year project that just ended miserably. But
No, sorry.
to the next species we go. Yeah, if you have any Phalix babies that you got eating, let me know.
We're trying to. I think he's trying to breed them again.
Excellent.
Yeah, he's gonna put them together.
Yeah, we also had a very unusual breeding. We couldn't find a whole lot about it. Ovophus.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And the first time we bred them, we had an intern from Japan.
Oh, wow.
The eggs was
We were kind of out of.
Yeah.
We did not realize.
yeah. We thought the eggs looked bad. So we
were
were
like,
about
"Oh,
to look,
no."
and he goes, "No, I read someplace that they found some eggs, you know, in a Japanese book that didn't have English, so couldn't read, and basically he said they have weird eggs. So we saying it was weird eggs, we just kept them. They hatch in 2 to 5 days, and
Wow.
you can actually literally. We have videos on our YouTube channel of them being born and stuff, and you could actually see the egg that they're fully formed.
Wow.
Yeah, like you can see the pattern and stuff
Yeah.
like through the egg.
But it looks
It's cool.
initially when we looked at it, it looked like, you know, those yellow eggs that are becoming.
Oh, just rotted out. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm like, these are bad. And
And then those eggs are super waxy, right?
They're I don't know if I would say waxy. The shells are really thin when they
Almost
hatch.
like Cerastes vipera eggs,
yeah,
where it's like they hatch like, you know, 2 days later kind of thing.
Yeah, and like the egg is like there's nothing left once they hatch. Like it's just like wet.
Just like tissue paper.
it's basically like when a copperhead or a boa gives birth and they're in the little egg sac type.
Yeah, yeah.
It's basically that, but it's a
Yeah.
lot more formed as an egg and it comes out.
Wow.
Now, I've heard from some people in Japan that if the temperatures and the weather's not right, they'll carry them and they'll come out live.
Oh, wow.
That whole genus is so bizarre.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah,
I really like them. They're like little. I don't know. A bulldog is not the right word, but they're like that. Like they sometimes you go to move them and they just push against the hook and they, you know, that almost like male combat behavior, but the females will do it too. I just think they're really funny.
Super cool, man. Super cool.
we answer most of your questions.
Yeah. So I mean, with
Yeah.
as much extractions and stuff as you're doing, surely over the years there are either species or groups that you don't necessarily dread and having to deal with, but like, what's your least favorite to have to work?
This is gonna sound silly, but it's venomous, and to me, I just figure out a way to do it. I don't have any that are more scary. I guess if I had to say one that was more tricky, it's actually the Echis, because they can turn in their skin and stuff, and they'll fish hook out and stuff. Harry Green told her, tell her a story because I don't remember it totally.
Yeah, I don't know. He was here for some reason, and we happened to have some little, I guess they would have been pyramidum babies
Yeah.
at that time. And I was assist feeding them like pieces of baby leopard gecko tail.
Yeah.
So I was telling him, because he was like, what are they eating? And I was like, well, they're not really eating anything unless I smack them in the face with these a bunch of times. And then he was like, oh yeah, I think that gets really interesting. But when I was in graduate school, my professor injected a mouse with some venom, and then a couple minutes later, he cut open the mouse and poured it out.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
I was like,
Jeez.
yeah.
That's the thing is if you take, I had a guy who was I consulted on that got bit by his pet, his private keeper, by an ecus. And he spontaneously started bleeding from a place he cut himself the day before shaving.
Wow.
And then I don't know how much medical stuff he has, but he started having brown urine.
Yeah.
So he was, but we were able to, he did have to end up on dialysis for a while, but he healed up.
Wow.
But you know, that's a little snake. And when people say, what's the most dangerous snake? I always say the one that bit you. It's the only one you have to deal with.
Right.
There's no degrees of death. So if I shoot you with a 22 in the head and I shoot you with a 45, you're just as dead, maybe a little more messy. But, you know, that's it always counts down to it's a foreign protein in your body that could kill you. You don't know what your pre-existing conditions are. So something that didn't kill, somebody else might kill you.
Yeah.
You know, and every time they merit their venom. So, you know, it seems like feeding response bites are the worst.
Oh, for sure. I'm sure.
And that's because the animal's anticipating something. But, you know, dry bites do occur. I mean, there's debate on what the percentage is of them, but because it's hard to know. Because if somebody got a dry bite and they stayed home, that's not reported to the medical documentation. So how do you really, you can only say this is what happened in the hospital and preface it with that. It's like I tell people, if you're studying snakes, if you can't study them from a distance, you have to say, this is how the snake acted in my presence. Because they're going to be acting totally differently if I'm not. But now with telemetry, it's a lot better and easy. And with the cameras, they're not interacting with them. But in the old days, I mean, research was considered you walk up to the snake, look at the snake, weigh the snake and all stuff, and then you talk about its behavior. That when you walked up on it, well, that's because you're a giant walking up on it. It's not going to react the same as if it's your mouse going by or some insect.
Right.
So,
Right.
But, you know, when I extract venom, I think I said this earlier, I'll do 300 snakes and only one or two almost strike. And they're in a threat position because I'm going to pin them. I'm going to be like a predator. I'm going to be holding them. So there was a famous host, I won't mention his name, who took a beaded lizard or Gila monster, flipped it on its back and was rubbing its belly, and it's doing all this. And people were saying, "Oh, that's so cute." I'm like, "No, it's not. That animal's going into shock."
Yeah.
It's on its belly. The birds are tearing its guts out. He doesn't know that you're not pecking his belly open. He's not ticklish. He's in shock. He's going into shock.
Scared.
Yeah.
Do you guys get calls for heloderma bites?
Yeah, occasionally.
We have. I'm sure you know about the death.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We were not involved in that.
But we know all the researchers involved.
And yeah, we did see a presentation at the meeting that Jim's wearing the shirt from on it, which was basically that he had a stroke, but we don't really know exactly, was it really the venom?
Yeah, that's what a lot of us are saying, is that who knows what really happened. And
if he got a drop in blood pressure and he already had either an aneurysm or something, that could cause that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you hear about people having a stroke from a panic attack,
Yeah.
And it's like,
though there is also, just interestingly, as an aside, I don't know how much this has to do with the bite, we'll never know, but apparently when they extracted from the lizard to like do a profile of its venom, it gave a very large amount of venom. And I don't remember the number. But there was some speculation that like if that particular individual just, who knows if it just gave a lot at that moment or if that individual is prone to giving more. But we've had snakes that like this individual snake almost always gives more venom than the average. So theoretically it could be possible.
We had a Western Diamondback we called the Overachiever.
Yeah.
It was like 30 years old and every 2 weeks it would give 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of venom.
Good.
Wow.
And that's dry.
That's dry.
Dry. Jeez.
Yeah.
So
it was crazy. It would fill up the whole vial by itself.
Yeah.
Every time. And she was calm.
Yeah, she was
like
calm.
She didn't care. She wasn't like trying to bite all the time or anything like that. But man,
I think that's
like
also what the free handlers kind of gets them into a sense of safety or that they have magical powers or whatever it is that, snakes don't normally bite. I mean, you can get away with it till you don't get away with it. And, every one of you guys have had a snake and you've had a snake that should crawl around forever. And then one day it just turns on shoes on you. Well, imagine if that's an inland taipan. Imagine if that's a cobra. It's a lot different. It changes your life. I had a guy who got bit in the testicles because he used to put his rattlesnake in his lap.
Jeez.
Wow.
He had his bathrobe on. It went under, and he had everything included from the process.
Jeez.
But I also had a guy who went to shoot a rattlesnake that his buddy had been bitten by, and he shot the rattlesnake.
Wait, he hadn't bitten him yet.
No, he hadn't bitten him. He shot.
Jim's forgetting his own stories.
He did.
The first person, there were two guys hunting.
Right.
And there was a rattlesnake next to where they were walking. The guy in front just walked past it. The guy behind him freaked out because it was a rattlesnake and shot it. And the first guy...
No, the guy it ricocheted.
It ricocheted.
And the guy sat down on the snake and got bit. The guy went to roll him off the snake and he got bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was called because they wanted to know about doing surgery on the guy who got shot because he has an anticoagulant in him.
Oh, jeez.
So it was a double-edged sword. He probably wasn't going to die from a rattlesnake bite because they had anti-serum, but he took a good gut shot. And gut shots are really dirty. So,
yeah.
So he, they went ahead and did surgery. He didn't bleed out, so they had transfusions ready and everything else, but everything I guess turned out right. But,
except for the snake.
Except for
Wow. That's a wild story.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of, almost everybody's in herpetology from you guys on down. Everybody got a little bit of a history and stories.
Sure.
Mentality. I just, we support responsible keepers. We will never support non-responsible keepers. So, but we're not here to police, but we're not also here to babysit.
Right.
Sure. Yeah. Or enable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've helped people get anti-serum in the past, and like she said, the young lady's got stuff down to a pat more, but we still have a PDF that we send out occasionally, and there have been people who've gotten their anti-serum.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you're serious about it, and family or anything else, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Like I said before, all the guys who say, "Oh, I'll just stay home," when it starts hurting, they're the first ones calling us and begging for anti-venom.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just be smart. Use your tools. Don't be a fool, and then just enjoy your animals. I mean, that's what it should be about in the first place, not about your ego.
Yeah.
Not about how many clicks you get or views you get because you're being a jerk or an idiot. And a lot of those people, I'm seeing a lot of paramyxia virus floating around. I hear collections being wiped out. And a lot of that's people like, transporting multiple shipments of animals in one car. And it might be everybody else is good, but one guy has got paramyxia. Everything in the car has paramyxia. Not
Basic biosecurity stuff.
Yeah.
and not quarantining. I mean, cities, some of the top tier youth to influencers are like unboxing videos right in their main room.
Yeah.
And then you also see some of them say, well, my snakes are all of a sudden sick. Yeah, you might have brought a parasite in if you're lucky, and you can cure that. You brought a virus in and you're going to kill them all.
Yeah.
It's we still have stuff that gets through. I mean, we do bleeding and
We don't have to.
Yeah, well, you can do swabs now.
Now it's so easy.
easier.
Yeah.
But we quarantine 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, stuff can get through. Sometimes it doesn't become active until the animal tries to breed because there's stress.
Right.
Active.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely frustrating because South Carolina in particular is likely going to be having something come down the pipeline now.
Hopefully, they still have some good people in their fish and wildlife that are real herpers, and hopefully some sense of. But from
Well, when the laws got passed in Kentucky, they didn't have anything to do with snakes.
Yeah.
The law passed here, and the reason it got brought up here was because there was a snow leopard that escaped, and a monkey. You're right, in Western Kentucky.
Wow.
And that's actually what instigated it. But then when they started talking about dangerous animals, they're like, well, we're just going to include every dangerous animal or injurious animal that we can think of and have one law for everything. And so,
that's the problem.
It's easy to lump it all together.
If people who want to keep them don't produce something to show them that they can do it safely, and they're just going to lump it all together with everything else. It's like you can't have a rhinoceros. And I don't know that I've ever seen anybody except some of the really rich people who have a rhinoceros.
Who is that?
Pablo Escobar.
I was just
yeah.
Didn't he have hippos?
There's hippos.
There's a population of hippos now in Colombia or where he was or wherever that's now flourishing.
I've said it once, I'll say it again. It's always the damn mammal people. It's never the herpers.
The monkey incident had even a higher thing on it because it happened to be a relative of one of the senators.
Yeah.
And what happened was this guy had a cigarette store that you drive through, and, like booth or whatever, and he was going to let the monkey run out and grab the cigarettes from the guy. Instead of grabbing cigarettes, he ran around and bit her nose almost off.
Wow.
And she happened to be a relative of the senator, and that just kind of like helped push it.
There was not much question
to it. So we tried to get permits, but nobody listened. The first question they had to me was, how will it pay for itself?
Wow.
Well, part of that problem is already on the books, Lexington, Louisville, and Northern Kentucky, it's illegal to have any animals. It was already on the books before they pushed this one. So the city and state,
the cities that have the population, who
are
may have had permits to pay for it,
Right.
they were already illegal.
Wow.
So that was their reason for not doing a permit. We had actually offered to do the first couple of years of inspections and looking over permits and inspecting animals for free. And we got lambasted because everybody said, well, why didn't you stop it? I'm like, I don't, my pocket's not deep.
Yeah.
It was just me and her showed up.
Yeah, there were
Nobody else.
at the legislative meeting. There were no other reptile people. There was a crazy monkey lady who did not give anybody a good look.
Did they do the meeting at 2:00 on a Tuesday afternoon and tell people like 48 hours in advance that it was going to happen?
It was during the day and then on a weekday, but they did allow for public comment to be written in, and they did actually take some of that into account because one of the people who wrote in complained about the cost of the permit because you can get a permit for native species. And they actually changed their cost structure based on that one letter.
Really?
Yeah. So now I don't think they did a great job of notifying everybody. We found out about it through the Louisville Zoo folks. But that was also in, like, the internet is not what it is now. So,
Yeah.
you know, me not noticing may not really mean that much. But we did go to the meeting.
We've just noticed a trend, especially down in Florida and most of those sort of public comment type meetings. Like, they tend to be fairly quiet about when they're going to happen. They make them at a really bizarre hour on a day of the week when you're likely working, like just
in the middle of nowhere.
in the middle of nowhere. You know,
Yeah.
so
it's become, for Florida, I'm in Florida, it's become a formality. Our word, up until recently, with some state park development stuff that's been happening.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Yeah, with the exception of that, in the, dare I say, captive husbandry world, which is what the state classifies it as, our word is irrelevant. It's a formality. They have to let us talk. They've already made the decision, so that's why they host these meetings on a Tuesday at 2:00 in the afternoon. They give you 48 hours notice, and it's 5 hours from any populace. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's,
that's how
It was more, we got at least a week.
Oh yeah, it was definitely more
Yeah,
notice than that.
yeah,
I think I almost think it was like quite a bit more than that, like months even. But
wow.
yeah, I mean, I understand that it's frustrating, and it's also like makes it difficult to try to stay on top of things and understand what's going on. Like that is frustrating. You know, I don't have any good advice for that.
We just had a lady that does rescues, that our state just took away all of her rescue animals because she forgot to get her permit updated.
damn.
Wow.
They're giving her a little leeway over. So it's who's ever in charge and whoever's involved. You know, if you get a good rapport with your fish and wildlife people, they usually will tell you something. I've heard horror stories about Florida, and I've dealt with Florida. I used to have a venomous permit from Florida, even though I never lived there. And I actually got stopped one time when I was out hunting because I had a venomous box in the back, and he's like, and it had Ohio plates. And understandably, he stopped me. And I did what he said, and I said, "Well, here's my permit." And he goes, "Ohio?" Like, and he could notice that it had been reissued multiple times. And like, yeah, I mean, I only come down here like for a couple of weeks, every year, and I'm like, but I still paid it. Then it was only $100.
It's still only 100 now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but the hoops that they make you jump through,
right?
That's gotten more and more.
It's insane. It's unfathomable for the average person now, and that's why they do it.
What part of Florida?
I'm in Southeast Florida. I'm about 20 minutes north of Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to spend a lot of time down around Alligator Alley and Lehigh Acres. And
yeah, it's beautiful out there.
Yeah. I saw Florida Panther in Lehigh Acres. But...
Oh, nice. Excellent. Yeah, man, it's one of the last, I don't want to say semi-natural areas left in terms of like overdevelopment and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, they just make it so difficult that, and now they have a new app, right? The app doesn't work. You have to go you have to go on the internet and log in on their actual website because the app is trash. But you have to apply.
Chalk that up to general government incompetence.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Well, so it took them, they said it was going to be 90 days. It took them a year to get it all squared away. And I just got my renewal for my commercial seller's license, which I don't do because I don't really sell anything. I just have it just in case, Right. And I just got my renewal today. So you have to apply for the renewal. They have to approve your application, which could take months. Then you have to actually apply. Once the application is approved, then you apply for the license, then you pay your money, and then weeks, if not months later, then they issue you the license.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bureaucratic quagmire.
Oh, it's atrocious. And then what used to be
it's like making extra work for them too. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and what used to be cut and dry. This is how you apply. This is what you need. These are the credentials. Go for it. Oh no, now it's very convoluted, and they make it so hard that you don't want to do it, and lots of people don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying about the permit system. If
Yeah.
you come up with a permit system, then it has to be workable for everyone.
Right.
You know, even though you don't like the guy, if he makes the grade, you know,
Yeah.
my belief in law is law applies to everybody. I don't care how rich you are, how poor you are. You
Agreed.
do something wrong, it should apply to you. Now, in reality, that's not necessarily true, but you know, it's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. My meds are kicking in.
No, but we get it, man. We're with you, and it makes sense. And it's a problem where guys like us and gals like us, excuse me, we're all for doing it right.
Yeah.
But then at the same
I have
time,
no
you
qualms
give
with the
them-
permit system. If they put
Right.
one in place in South Carolina, like I have no issues with it. But
But now I don't want South Carolina to become the poster child, although I feel Florida already has, where you give an inch and they take a mile.
yes,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, unless somebody gets somebody's ear, whose ear is going to get it is Florida because it's so close to South Carolina.
Yeah.
So that's gonna
Yeah.
that they're gonna be looking for where there's permits. And Florida's used to be everybody tell everybody. And part of my problem with the permit system in Florida was that I only had to get like 3 people to say I had experience. And
Yeah. So now
it used to be you could have 2 or even 3 animal dealers say that. And they
no. Yeah.
They've changed it now.
Yeah, I know they've
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah. Now you need 2 letters of recommendation from 2 Florida license holders.
Yeah.
Well, if you can only get one person to mentor you, what then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And some like me, I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, man, I need another letter of recommendation from a license holder. I've never met you before. I'm not putting my name on your name. Like, get the hell out of here."
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of those things where it puts you in a bad position.
Exactly. And they're saying, "Oh, you vouched for him?" No, no,
Well,
I did not.
That's that old saying: when you lay down with dogs, you get fleas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Somebody should just do it because it's hard because in the old days, everybody pretty much knew each other,
Sure.
and I'm not saying everything was done right; it wasn't, but everybody knew each other, and they knew who was trouble and who not to deal with and who not to, But it seems like now it's just like, I'll sell to you. I mean, there's so many nations from Africa now, with tons of farmed gaboon babies and stuff. Most of those don't even make it. A lot of those have paramyxia. Almost every one that we've gotten, either through confiscation or through somebody dying, and not from snake bite, but just dying and the people give up. Almost all the Vipera have always had paramyxia.
Really?
Yep. You know where paramyxia was first found, right?
No.
It was in a French venom lab.
Really?
And at first it was called the Fer-de-Lance disease. So,
wow.
Yeah, and it used to be the old way to test in your quarantine was to put either a Mojave or a Bothrops in there, and if it dropped dead, then there was paramyxia in it.
Yeah, canary in the coal mine.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to. I did the venomous room at Strictly Reptiles for a few years, and we always kept a southern copperhead in there as the canary. And I know that sounds messed up, but 20 years ago, that's what we did, right?
Yeah.
40 years ago,
And
that's what we did.
then you could stick a Q-tip in their butt and send it off to get tested.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Hey, are you aware of that new test
What's that?
for paramyxia? The new test for paramyxia?
No, no.
It's not really new.
It's kind of
new-ish compared to that. It's new.
Yeah.
There's actually multiple places now where you can take cloacal swabs. It depends on what you're testing for.
Right.
And they do basically PCR, so they're checking for the presence of that organism's DNA, and they do paramyxia, they can do crypto, they do coronavirus, they have a tortoise panel, there's a whole bunch of things that you can test for now. It's really great, and a lot of the tests are like $20-$40 So it's really not, that expensive to get stuff checked unless you're like us and you have, 300 animals in quarantine or something. But
Yeah.
for the average person, it's very reasonable.
That's great.
Do you guys sort of stagger that? So like you have stuff that's fresh, and then after a certain period of time, are they going into a separate section so that they're not getting exposed to the
We
new
have
stuff?
multiple buildings, and
Okay.
so we typically we always have one quarantine, but a lot of times we'll have two. And so, like right now, we actually have one. It's almost done. It's done at the end of October. So when that building clears, we'll have another one that starts. And maybe we empty that quarantine building out and put them in there, but sometimes we just like have a different building that we use. And then, yes, we usually test at least twice. It kind of depends on how the animals are acting and where they came from and how suspicious we are and all that sort of stuff. But we try to do at least one relatively early in the quarantine process and then do another one close to the end.
Mhm.
And sometimes that's right away. It kind of depends on our schedule.
Right.
But it might be we've had them for a month and a half and then we do it. So
Yeah.
but that's why we have quarantine, so we're not dragging things around to other
And
places.
you really, unless you have a necropsy done on the animal, you don't know what it died from.
Mm-hmm.
Because if its organs are damaged, it could be from a virus,
or it could
be
just
genetics.
be old.
Yeah, it could be old. It could be
Yeah.
genetics.
Come in chronically dehydrated or
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go to bed.
yeah, we're at the 2 hour mark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If
Hopefully we kind of gave you some ideas and also entertained you.
Absolutely. Can't thank you guys enough. This is
Well,
great.
if you guys get to Kentucky, you need to stop by.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if people need to get in touch or have questions as far as the zoo itself, because you guys are open to the public.
We are. We're pretty easy to find, but it's kyreptilezoo.com or .org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. Like Google Maps knows where we are. So like we shouldn't be hard to find. And I mean, I always am willing to help people who are trying to get antivenom. I don't know if it's as necessary for me now that there's this other resource that's available, which is great, but I don't mind that. And, I'm not going to be like, well, why didn't you do it last year? I mean,
yeah,
if you're trying to do the right thing now, I'm going to support that.
We appreciate that sincerely.
Yeah, we're definitely all about professionalism and doing it right. And
yeah,
I won't even sell a shirt to a friggin' free handler if I know they're doing it. So
Yeah, man, that's just we could go on about that for
whole nother show.
yeah.
Right?
Yep, not in venom weights.
Yeah.
A whole another show. So,
yeah.
You guys take care, man, and I'll go pass out.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Guys.
Well, have a great night.
You as well.
All right. Bye.
Here we are.
Man, anti-ant musk.
I know.
Bro.
Again, like that's one of those things where it's like I hear some of those studies they do, and I'm like, what on earth made you look at that and say, I bet you they're using it for this?
Yeah. Yeah. And it makes me wonder about when I got tail spined that one time. I wonder if that was that.
I tried to hunt down that video that Wyman had of his beaked doing that, but I don't remember if he sent it to us in a
I think I
chat.
have it, and I know he has it still, so we'll definitely get him to share that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure I have a video of a stiletto doing it, so I have to dig through my archive of dirt snake videos.
Of course, I haven't had internet issues pretty much the entire month, and then tonight it started to struggle, so I just turned on my hotspot on my phone and said, "Data be damned."
Well, I won't lie. After about 10-15 minutes in, you were fine the whole time.
Yeah, that's because I switched to my phone.
Nice.
Because my hotspot's better than my Wi-Fi sometimes.
That's fine. Whatever works, man. Right?
But
whatever works.
So So the Zoe who they were talking about is running that anti-venom support group.
Yeah.
Henry messaged me and said she had tuned in. She actually did comment shortly.
I know, and Henry was in the chat too, and I know he knows almost as much of that stuff as KY does. So
yeah. So future episode ideas. When's the next Exchange Radio happening?
Dude, it's been so hard between my schedule and Nipper's schedule. We're gonna try and put something together on Wednesday. I was trying to get Bob Rock back on to do more Texas stuff, and then I know Nipper has a couple European chaps that he's friendly with that we're going to come on. So we got a bunch of coals in hand. We just haven't put them in the fire yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Iraq Nerds is happening tomorrow. It will not be live.
Oh.
I don't know that that'll be a live show really at all. I get it depends on how Nisarg is feeling about it.
Yeah.
But, and the guests too. A lot of the times, we'll like I told Kristen going in, was like, this is live. If you guys don't want it to be live, it doesn't have to be,
Right.
No big deal. And they said it's fine. So
cool.
We try to cater as best we can.
Of course.
But yeah, this was good. There's like a whole section on the collection and what they're focused on that we never even got to.
I know.
For a follow-up maybe.
Oh, for sure.
Fulvisapparel.com. Use code THN at checkout. Get 20% off your order. 15% off your order. I think it's 15.
Ooh. Is it a slip up?
I don't know. 15. It'll tell you at checkout. Also have it set to where orders over $80 you get free shipping. So
excellent.
New stuff coming as always. Again, I have patches made to put on hats. I just got to put them on hats, and then I got to take pictures, and then I got to put them on the website. And I keep saying that's going to be my project this weekend, and here we are 3 weekends later, and it still is not happening. So
you need to take your patches and have them be hook and loop back so that people can Velcro them onto whatever they want.
It could probably be arranged and like sell them like as a patch and not
just
attached to something.
Exactly. Have it as a patch where the back of it is all the hook part of the hook and loop, and then they can slap it on a tactical backpack or a baseball hat or whatever they want. Or if they want to stitch it on their jean jacket, rock and roll.
I will investigate that just for you, buddy.
Thank you very much.
Need them for the Bronco.
That's it.
Said Cox. Kentucky showed up in force.
Oh.
Dustin Black was here. Ryan Cox is here.
The Louisville boys.
KRZ, for anyone that is wondering, is in Slade, Kentucky. For years, I've been saying, like, I need to make a weekend trip and go up there and check it out. I know Cox has been saying, like, let's go. It does need to happen because I do want to get up there and check it. I've been following them on YouTube and stuff for a long time, and they post videos all the time of the milkings and stuff they do. It's cool to see. They seem to do a lot with Bothrops, and one of the things that I was hoping we'd get to that we just it didn't happen for one reason or another was what are they focused on as far as, is there a particular genre or species maybe that they're heavily focused on more so in venom production than just having on display and stuff. But
for sure,
it's cool. I didn't even know they had stilettos, so I think that's cool.
Oh
too.
yeah, they posted
to be for something like that, like completely unrelated to venom and stuff is cool too.
Yeah, I really want to know how they're keeping them, man. I mean, obviously they're feeding them pinkies, rock and roll, but like, I should have reached out to them sooner.
If only we had known.
To the future.
BlackBoxCages.com. Also use code THN24 at checkout. Get 10% off your order. You need a rack, you need a cage. BlackBox is who you need to be talking to. Use the pickup option if you're near North Georgia. Drive on over there, grab it, pick it up, save on shipping, see the operation, get yourself some nice cages.
Nice cages.
Jake and I are going to be making our way up there probably, sounds like maybe the beginning of October.
Okay.
There was too much. So we were planning on hopefully going up there this weekend because there's a Show Me show in Grovetown that they're vending. And so previously we've gone up there during that show and picked up and sort of just hung out and everybody and all that. And, but I don't think that's going to happen this weekend because Jake has stuff going on. And then the following weekend after that, we're going to be doing some herping Saturday. So
Nice.
I think Jack and Skylar are going to be in town. So
Cool, man.
there's a new WMA that opened up recently that we're going to go
Really?
tromp around, and they have a whole thing planned. I'm going to go there and just be along for the ride and enjoy the day.
Yeah, let them Rob Stone it and you just chill.
That's right.
That's it.
Cold-blooded caffeine. We didn't mention them at the beginning. In the beginning, I'm having a stroke.
It's cool.
Use the code SMOKE at checkout. Get 10% off your order. Get some awesome coffee. Snakes and Stogies blend. Get it. Rwandan.
Rwandan.
It too is late, and the cat just thought that I was opening a food bag because he all of a sudden just perked up real quick, thinking I had something for him. So
Give him a bean. See how he likes it.
yeah, so I don't know if THP is happening. They were talking about doing Flippin' 10 Thursday, but it sounds like that's getting kicked to next week. So I don't know if we're going to do THP this week, but we're doing Arachnids tomorrow. So that'll drop as soon as that's up and done.
Hell yeah.
And other than that, we'll see everybody later.
Bye.